started. Thank you everybody for joining. My name is April Seifert. I am co-founder and data scientist for Sprocket. We're going to jump into some content today to help you build customer profiles that don't suck. And without further ado, I'm actually going to shut my video off and share my screen. I know people are taking time out of their busy day to be here today, so I want to make sure that we are mindful and that we dive right in. All right, we're going to jump right into today's content, how to create customer profiles that don't suck, that are instantly actionable, even on a shoestring budget. Let me see. I'm going to make sure that I have the chat up as well, so I can actually see you guys chatting. So if you have questions at any point during this, feel free to drop them in the chat as we're going through. We're going to do a little bit of hands-on stuff today, but mostly we're going to show you a great framework that you can use in your own business. All right, before we dive in today though, I want you to think about why you signed up for this webinar. Now, I mentioned it before, people are busy, it's tough to take an hour out of your day, so there's a reason why you're here. Now, maybe you're hoping to find a way to make your marketing messages convert better, or maybe you feel like your ad copy is just kind of hard to write when you sit down to write it. You might not know what your customers like best about your current products and services, so maybe you feel paralyzed about what to do next, or maybe you're just operating on hunches or worse, in a reactionary mode where you respond to every single customer complaint that you receive as though the house is on fire. You might want to know what drives your customers' satisfaction and loyalty, or maybe you're doing what a lot of companies do and you're targeting really broad demographic groups like millennials and moms. Or maybe, just maybe you're a smaller business. Maybe you're an early stage business, or maybe you're a startup company, and maybe you just know how valuable good customer profiles are, but you don't really have the money to hire a big expensive firm to help you create them. So maybe you're just forced to rely on, people like internet gurus and other people like that who can help you craft customer avatars, but you're kind of left wondering whether those gurus have ever actually gotten real success with a brand using their methodology. And maybe it's something else. So I love this, Bevan, entrepreneur and guilty of creating sucky profiles, interested in new methods and tools. Welcome. I'm so excited that you're here. That's awesome. So what we've found is that regardless of which one of those or things that sort of look and smell like them is your issue, we find that most of those issues come down to a common root cause. And that's that companies don't have actionable, accurate customer profiles. Or maybe they do, but they're just not really using them to their full potential. So today we're going to do a few things. First, we're going to show you our Sprocket's methodology for creating customer profiles. And this is the exact same method that we use with the big brands who contract with us for, custom insight and custom innovation work. And rest assured, compared to other things that you might have seen on the internet, today you're going to be learning a proven methodology that we've used with other clients. And at Sprocket, we believe that the more data you can collect from your customers, the better, but we also know that it's time consuming and it can be really expensive. So we're also going to show you our scrappiest ways to collect data on your customers, most of them for next to nothing. And finally, great customer profiles are only worth their time and effort if they're actually used for something. So toward the end of the session, stick around till then, we're going to show you where you can download a toolkit that you can actually use to put these customer profiles to use in your business and start driving results. So that is our agenda for today. The methodology that you're going to learn today is actually one of the components of our overarching Sprocket Spark methodology. This is, I mentioned before, this is the framework that we use to help our one-on-one clients understand their customers and identify areas for growth and actually move them forward to take action and implement new things in their business that lead to revenue. Since we only have a little bit of time today, we can't really cover everything, but we wanted to give you a good understanding of the way that we think about customer profiles because they're really the foundation of the rest of our growth framework. I took a peek through our registration list. There are definitely some people here who I know, so hello if I've met you in real life, but I know that we've got some new names and faces on the webinar. So before we dive right into that method, I'm going to take 2 seconds to say hi and introduce myself and Sprocket. Sprocket is interesting because we combine areas of expertise that don't typically go together. So economics, data science, and design aren't typically things that you see together in a firm like ours. And this combination allows us to take advantage of the power of data and insight. And we use the design thinking and innovation process on top of that to help our clients grow. So I'm April, I'm the one in the middle. I'll be your cruise director for most of today's webinar. I'm also joined by Justin Royer. He is our resident growth designer, so you're gonna hear from him in a bit as well. At Sprocket, we help our clients grow with their existing customers, and we help them do that fundamentally by understanding their customers and innovating from that to create products and experiences that those customers want. And ultimately, that's what drives revenue and growth for our clients. And we've had so much fun working with really great brands. And today, we're basically going to give you a glimpse of the methodology that we've used to help brands like these on your screen grow so that you can have the same tools at your disposal that they do. All right, let's dive right in. So I want to introduce you to our fictitious local microbrewery called Lakeboard Brewing Company. And we use this in a lot of our workshops. So if you've taken a workshop in live with us at a conference or in another event, you've been introduced to Lakeboard in the past. For those of you who haven't, though, Lakeboard Brewing Company specializes in brewing batches of craft microbrew beer, like their signature brew, which is called Shandy Beach. It's a watermelon shandy. In 2018, they reached $8 million in sales, and they opened their new tap room that same year. They see this tap room as a key growth initiative for the company, and they're interested in increasing revenue through sales in that new tap room. So that's where we're going to focus today, on how to increase sales in that new tap room. And we're going to dive into our methodology to do that. So let's actually start where a lot of companies begin. We're going to start with a blank sheet of paper. Maybe you have a Post-it note near you. Maybe you have a sheet of paper. Even if you don't, I want you to just think about this exercise. So many companies that we encounter are operating from nothing. They don't have customer profiles to guide them, and instead they're just kind of flying blind at how to market to their customers and grow their revenue. So based on what we went through about Lakeboard, think about a quick headline and a call to action. Let's say you're writing an ad for the tap room that might run on social media or run on Google. Think about what headline you would craft and what your call to action would be to drive additional revenue. And I'm going to give you just 10 seconds to think about that. And drink a little strawberry bubbly. Okay, maybe you've got something written down. Maybe you just, thought of something. Either way, set that aside. We're actually going to come back to it in just a moment. But for right now, I'm going to turn it over to Justin, who's going to talk about customer profiles and why they usually suck.
Hey everyone, I'm Justin. I'm one of Sprocket's co-founders. And before we dig into building actionable customer profiles, let's take a moment to quick define the popular ways that companies describe their customers. So broadly, we see companies segment their customers in two primary ways. The first one's using demographic segmentation. So essentially segmenting by using basic descriptors such as age, income, and geography, pretty basic. So for example, a demographic segment may look like this one. People are 25 to 34 years old, live in the burbs with household incomes greater than 100,000. The problem with this type of segmentation is that it's not very actionable, as it doesn't tell us anything important, such as current customer behavior or motivations. Now, the second popular way companies segment customers is via behavior. Now, this is due to the fact that this type of behavior is so prevalent. You can readily find web behavior data on Google Analytics or purchase data using your point of sale system. An example of behavioral segmentation is shown here. So people who visit the website once a month have an average order value of $32 and purchase nitro beers, which, just like April's Buble, is pretty tasting. This form of segmentation is more helpful than demographic segmentation because at least you understand what your customers are doing. But the problem is you don't understand why. So creating new messages or products and services based solely on behavior is pretty tough. So before we can show you how to create customer profiles that don't suck, we thought it would be fun to show you the 3 main ways that they do suck. So the first way customer profiles suck is that they don't exist. So how are you supposed to create value for customers if you don't even know who they are? So we find that most people agree with this, yet most organizations make assumptions about customers that are unfounded, and frankly, it limits growth. So just like our good pal Yogi Berra said, if you don't know where you're going, you'll end up someplace else. The second way we find that customer profiles suck is by superficial meaning. And what I mean by that is that companies segment based on superficial attributes such as demographics, like we mentioned earlier. And while you can describe your customers into the groups shown here, like millennials with tattoos and smartphones and middle-aged professional women, that doesn't mean it'll help you market or sell better to them. Because what we found in over 2 decades of building customer profiles is that people with drastically different demographic and lifestyle backgrounds can be seeking the exact same thing. And the third way that customer profiles suck is lack of causation. So remember, the purpose of a customer profile is not to merely describe people, but to understand why they do what they do. Just knowing this behavior patterns is an observation. It's not an actionable insight until you understand why that behavior is occurring.
All right, so enough about customer profiles that suck. Let's turn our attention to profiles that don't suck and talk about the anatomy of a profile that will actually work better for you. So customer behavior flows from the inside out. It begins with who the person is as a person, who they are as a human being. And this drives them to want to accomplish certain things by coming to our brand. And finally, with those goals and needs in mind, they engage with our brand in ways that helps them accomplish those goals. So if customer behavior flows from the inside out, why is it that we approach customer insight and discovery in the opposite direction? You see, in most cases, customer or companies and clients that we work with focus almost entirely on observable customer behaviors. What did they buy? What emails did they open? What was their basket size? They stop there because, as Justin mentioned, those are really easy things to measure and to see. Now, sometimes, much less frequently, we do see companies going so far as to understand the nuance of different customer groups' goals and needs. So these are, what is the thing that they're trying to accomplish? Why is it that they're coming to our brand? And how do they want to accomplish that goal? Where we see people falling short, though, is that almost no one attempts to understand customers as people through their personal values. And the thing is, all these layers are interconnected, and to develop a full customer profile, you need every single one of them. So we're going to step through each of these layers, and we're going to start with observable behavior and give you a little bit more detail about each one. Now, customer behavior, don't get me wrong, we're not knocking it. It is an important aspect to study. And as we've mentioned, it's the easiest one to observe. 3 of the most common behavioral patterns that we definitely use in our customer profiles are things like digital engagement. So what websites did somebody visit, or what forms did they fill out? Their purchase journey. So what does this look like as the person is shopping? What's the trigger that ultimately made them purchase? And then what does that journey look like now that they're using the product and moving into advocacy? And last, purchase behavior. What did they buy, and what was in their basket with it, and how large was that basket? So we dig into all of those things because they do give us an insight into what makes those customers tick. And the world of analytics is filled with descriptions of behavior. Don't get me wrong, it's really useful, but we don't want you to stop there. So you've probably seen this one. A consumer purchases a drill, but what they really want is a 1/4 inch hole. You've probably seen, this quote in a number of different places. But if you think about the why behind that, what they really want is to hang up photos on the wall. To create customer profiles that don't suck, you have to understand the why behind the what your customers are doing. And we're going to dig into that in just a moment. So in this case, you want to sell a drill, and we ask the question why one time. Why does the customer want the drill? Well, it's to make a hole, silly. But what if we ask why again? And this is where, if we dig one level deeper, we find out that the hole, again, is to hang a photo. But let's keep going. Why do we want to hang a photo? Oh, well, it's because we want to be reminded of our family and our friends and good memories. Great. I mean, now we're getting somewhere. What's more compelling to a consumer? Trying to sell them a sterile drill, or to bring up the warm, fuzzy feeling of having your friends and family and memories around you? Most customer profiles suck because they stay at that surface level and they never ask why, let alone asking why multiple times. All right, so now Justin's going to take over and he's going to tell you a little bit about the next part of our customer profile equation, and that is needs.
So this is where it gets fun. So once you understand your customer's goals, it's time to understand how they measure success. So we call this needs, customer needs. And it's completely possible, and from our experience, highly likely, that what separates many of your customer profiles isn't their ultimate goal, but their differing needs. So let me give you a few examples. So remember, the customer goal that April talked about is to display images of family memories around the house, right? I want to be able to see that as I walk around. But if how I measure success is by minimizing the impact to my walls, so let's say that that's my need, I may opt for a product solution like 3M command strips because it'll allow me to hang items up without having to drill any holes. Alternatively, though, let's say that my need is a little bit different, and it's to minimize the effort it takes to hang pictures. And I'm not saying that I'm lazy, but let's say that this is my need. So perhaps my solution isn't a product at all, no drills, no drill bits, no 3M command strips, but instead I hire a professional service to do the work for me. So I'm still accomplishing the ultimate goal that April talked about, but in a different way compared to the previous customer. Finally, let's say that what I really care about is just maximizing the number of places I can see images. If that's the case, my solution may involve purchasing an Apple Watch and using the watch face that allows me to scroll through pictures. So in this case, the solution moves from the wall to my wrist. So hopefully these 3 examples show you how important it is not only to know your customer's goals, but the varying ways in which they define success via their needs. All right, so let's put goals and needs together in a quick exercise. So similar to the first one that April had you do, I'm going to have you think about a couple of quick things here. So imagine you have some customer quotes collected from speaking to customers. Now in a few minutes, April is going to speak with how this is one of the best and cheapest ways to get quality insight. So here's one from Mark. Mark says, Lakeboard has a great private room. It's big. They have food options to feed a larger group, and my clients love the fun atmosphere. I've closed a lot of deals over a Lakeboard IPA. So look over this quote one more time and look for clues about his needs. How is Mark measuring success? Now see if you can infer what his ultimate goal is. Why do you think Mark goes to Lakeboard in the first place? All right, let's take a look at Mark's needs. So hopefully you had a chance to take a peek at that and think about it. He's looking for a big private room because he's hosting clients and colleagues. He also needs a wide variety of food options to feed larger groups. So his needs go well beyond beer. Finally, he needs a fun atmosphere because he's entertaining clients. All of this relates to his ultimate goal of using non-office space to close more business deals. So what we've learned here is that Mark's not there primarily for fun and entertainment. He sees Lakeboard as a way to grow his biz. Now let's compare and contrast that. Let's compare Mark to Steph. And I'll just read her quote here where Steph says, "I'll admit it, I'm a mom who loves beer." There, I said it. My kids love the shuffleboard game and mama loves Shandy Beach. That is a great beer, by the way. Next webinar we host, we'll pass them around to everyone virtually. So same thing, look over her quote one more time and look for clues about her needs. Scan it right now. How is she measuring her success? Now see if you can infer what her ultimate goal is. Why do you think Steph goes to Lakeboard in the first place? Is it similar to Mark? Is it different? Let's take a peek. So let's take a look at Steph's needs. She's looking for some great tasting beer because she's a fan of beer, but that's not it. She's got kids and wants a place she can go with her kids in tote. Steph's ultimate goal here seems quite a bit different than Mark's. It's probably something like, have some fun outside of the house while I'm with my kids. So this illustrates just how different customers are looking for different things, though their ultimate destination may still be pointed toward your product or service. So once you know their differing goals and needs, you can build offerings, you can build messages that resonate, and ultimately convert. All right, strap in, folks. But wait, there's more. So we've now got a good sense of customers' goals and needs, and hopefully instilled how important those are. But what's behind it all? Like April mentioned, there are very few organizations that go beyond just a superficial description of customers to really figure out what makes their customers tick. And this is where human values comes in. So values are motivating forces that largely dictate the directions of our behaviors. The things that we can easily see in behaviors are driven by these human values. So certain brands and products cater to specific values. So let's take a look at a few of them here. So consider the Minnesota Vikings with the human value of power and stimulation, or the YMCA as a different example with the value of universalism. And FrontPoint, which is a do-it-yourself home security company, which really caters toward the human value of security. So similar to how brands and companies position themselves, there's quite a bit of variance in human values. And understanding this nuance leads to more effective communications and value propositions. A few years back, we did some customer profile work for FrontPoint Security, which is a do-it-yourself home security brand, like I just mentioned. We uncovered 5 different customer profiles, and 2 of which are listed and shown here. Fearful Fiona on the left valued security and safety and ended up purchasing FrontPoint because of the basic security features and the fact that it could be set up quickly. Whereas Binary Brad on the right values knowledge and independence and purchased additional home automation accessories such as cameras. So the question you should be pondering at this point is, would the same marketing message resonate equally with both of these customer types? What we've found time and time again is that you'll increase your sales conversions if you craft messages tailored to each of your customer profiles' unique sets of human values.
Okay, so I made you a few promises earlier on in this webinar. So I said that we would unveil our full stack methodology for creating these customer profiles. And if you think back through what we just went through, looking at customer behaviors, goals and needs, and values, having all 3 layers is what we find to be critical when you construct a customer profile that will actually work for you. The second promise I made you is that we would tell you about some scrappy ways to collect data, because what we found is that people have these beliefs about, not having any data, or that it's really difficult to get, or that it's really expensive. And we've found throughout the years that there are some quick and relatively cheap, if not free, ways of getting customer data. So we wanted to show you some of those today. So here's how you can start collecting insight today, even if you're strapped for time or money or both. Number one, look inside your organization. One of the things that we like to do with some of our insights projects is to construct what we call provisional hypotheses. These mean we go to coworkers or other people inside the organization who have different views of that customer journey. Maybe you find customer support representatives, someone on the sales team, someone on the marketing team. Different areas of your organization will see the customer through a different lens and have valuable hypotheses to add to the equation. So getting all these people in a room for a session, which is just meant to generate hypotheses, can be extremely valuable, and you'll get and uncover information that you didn't think about with your customers. Second, we hear people say all the time, well, but we don't have any data. And that's almost always false. If you have numbers on a spreadsheet, you have data. Most people, if you have a website, you typically have Google Analytics. If you have any kind of e-commerce platform, there's typically reporting that goes on behind the scenes. So be open and think about all the sources inside your organization where you might already be collecting data, because those are extremely valuable to mine. And third, inside your organization is existing products and services. These can give you clues about what your customers are looking for. Think about how you're marketing them today. What existing feature and benefit language are you using? And what's the creative direction you're using to tell your customers about your existing products and services? How well are those things resonating? That can give you clues about how well matched those messages are to your customers' goals and needs, and you can start to infer what those goals and needs might be. One of our favorite places to go for customer insight for free is the internet. We talk about this in terms of something we call digital exhaust. So as people are getting more and more accustomed to going online to places like Yelp and others, they leave comments. And this is a beautiful exhaust trail of what your customers valued, what they liked and what they didn't like about your product or service or business. And you can start to collect multiple comments to start to look for themes within them. This can be something as simple as pulling those comments out and reading them and thinking about what those themes might be. So this might be sort of a digital version of qualitative research. You can also, if you have access to somebody who does data science, or there's actually websites out there that will do it for you, you can also grab these comments and use something like natural language processing and machine learning to pull out key themes within these comments. Another key point about the internet is not only can you look at your customers' comments and reviews that they leave you, but go a little beyond that. Look up your key competitors. What do their customers say? What do they say about similar products and similar services when you compare them to the comments that they're making about you? There's an incredible wealth of insight just sitting out on the internet in the form of this digital exhaust that our customers are leaving us absolutely for free. Now, of course, we're a research firm. We do a lot of insight work. We have to say, if you do have some money and some time, hiring a firm for deep insight is always really valuable. This could be in the form of qualitative interviews or focus groups. It could be a larger fielded quantitative survey, something like ethnography, where you get to see a day in the life of your consumers, or machine learning, as I mentioned before, and other predictive modeling types of exercises. Another really fun way is to collect data and collect research on the cheap. And here's a few ways that we found to do that. Justin mentioned earlier the wealth of information you can get by simply talking to your customers. Typically, and I'll let you in on a little secret here, when we do large projects, like large projects for really big brands, you'd never guess how many interviews we do before we realize we're not hearing anything new. That number is way smaller than you think. Think a dozen or a couple dozen. You don't have to interview hundreds and hundreds of customers to start to understand the themes of what might be happening within those customers' journeys and what they're looking for your brand. So interviewing your customers is such a fast and easy and cheap way of getting really deep insight. Also, we love fielding what we call scrappy quant. We spin up a really quick survey, SurveyMonkey, Survey Gizmo, something like that. Google Forms is another really great way of spinning up a free survey, and we send it out via social media. You could tap other people in your organization to send it out to their friends and family groups. You could post your survey on message boards like Reddit and other places like that and ask people to give their feedback. So there's ways of doing quantitative surveys. They might not result in thousands of results, but it's better than having no data to go off of. And the last one that's really fun, I mentioned Google Forms as a way of collecting survey data. One sneaky thing that not a lot of people know about is something called Google Surveys. This is where you can actually pay, and we're talking a few cents per person. You can actually pay to have your survey question dropped on top of a website. So when a person does a Google search, in order for them to see the result of that Google search, when they click on a result on the Google results page, they get your question that you've asked gets put in front of that result, and they have to answer that question before they can move on. So you can get larger scale answers to really key questions. Multiple choice tend to be really good for this type of thing. You can get really large scale answers on key questions for next to no money through Google surveys. All right, I'm going to turn it back over to Justin, and he's going to put all this together and show you how to create our full stack customer profile.
All right, let's quickly review here. So we've learned that there are 4 primary components to building customer profiles that don't suck. You've got values, goals, needs, and behaviors. So in addition to that, April just went over some scrappy ways you can begin capturing insight on your customers. So let's put all this together and build a, build a customer profile. So the first thing you need to do is go to sprocketcx.com/profile. You can see that URL right there on your screen, and download a free copy of the customer profile template. We're going to show you how to use it here as we go forward. So it's an extremely helpful tool that will guide you through the 4 steps. So let's go ahead and build one together. So the first step is to begin by observing behaviors. Like we mentioned earlier, this is often the easiest thing to see, and it's a great place to start. So what are your customers doing today? Grab everything you have. Like April mentioned, you've got some of this right under your nose right now, things like web analytics, sales data, maybe some previous surveys. All of those are really helpful. And here's a pro tip. So never be scared to speak with your own customers. To us, there's really no better way to understand their current journey, and especially that journey with your brand and your company, than by speaking directly with them. And it only takes a customer list and a little bit of courage for that first call. So for this example, we learned that there is a group of customers that have high average sales, they visit Lakeboard monthly, and they often book side rooms. So we discovered this using just simple sales data. And so that's what you see in the lower right-hand corner there with behaviors. The second step in working with this profile is once you have documented different behavior patterns and you come up with a few hypotheses, it's time to capture your customers' goals and needs. So if you're a company that has reviews provided by your customers, like April talked about earlier, start there. It's a great way to see what they're saying. What do they like about your product or service? What frustrates them? If you don't happen to have access to customer reviews, and even if you do have access to them, again, we suggest picking up the phone and talking to customers. You'll be amazed at what you can learn by talking to as few as a handful of customers. So for this example today, think back to the interview comments left by Mark. Remember that he was looking for large rooms, he wanted good food variety, he also wanted a fun atmosphere. So he had all of those needs because his ultimate goal was to close more deals. And so that's what you see in the lower left-hand corner there with needs, and the upper left with goals. The third step is to focus on what makes your customers tick. And again, like we've said before, this is the place where most companies don't go, and it's so valuable. So starting to identify their core human values. So this can be tricky, but it's worth the investigation, because when you know this detail, you can craft messages that really resonate and ultimately convert. So we like to use customer interviews as well as simple surveys to help us understand customer values. So let's say you run a small product or retail business. You could use the tools already available to you on Microsoft Office or Google G Suite to craft a simple survey and put the link out there on a Facebook page or via email, message boards like April talked about. There are a wide variety of ways you can do that, but just place a few questions in the survey that get at some of these key human values and you're really off to a great start. So in this example, we inferred from our customer interviews that our business-centric customers valued relationships, things like achievement and status, just based on what we heard from them in our interviews. So here it is all together. You've used scrappy techniques to gather customer insight on the 4 key profile dimensions: values, goals, needs, and behaviors. And as a polishing touch, give your profile a name. We're going to name this one Deal Making Dana. And so now you have an incredibly powerful tool to help you drive all elements of your business. And the nice side benefit is that this will also help you communicate to other members of your internal and external team, so you're rowing the boat in the same direction. All right, so put a quarter in the Wayback Machine here, and remember what April asked you to do at the beginning of the webinar, which was to create that ad mentally, or maybe you sketch it on a Post-it note. But take a few seconds now and actually think about how having customer profiles defined would have influenced what you wrote in that headline. Think also, how would it change the way you crafted the call to action? Now shift gears mentally from Lakeboard and think about how the power of customer profiles can help you grow your business. Take a second to think about the pain points and unrealized potential that you have today, where better customer understanding using profiles would be a big help.
All right, so today we covered one aspect of our proven Sprocket Spark methodology, but I mentioned before there's so much more to it than that. And one common issue that we see is that our clients might have customer profiles, but they're not using them to their full potential. And the full Sprocket Spark framework helps you do that. But until now, this methodology was only available to the bigger brands who worked with us on a one-on-one engagement. We kept from doing conferences and speaking engagements. We kept hearing from smaller companies and earlier stage companies and startups, and their need for this type of framework is just as great, if not greater, than a bigger brand. So we wanted to find a way to bring this framework, the whole framework, to companies who might not be ready for a big one-on-one engagement. And this is why we're so excited to announce that we're standing up a new offering in the form of live workshops. And our first one is coming up. So in one day, you'll learn and actually apply the entire Sprocket Spark methodology to your own business. This won't be simulations. This will not be hypotheticals. You'll be working on your own business to create robust customer profiles. You'll create innovation tactics and experiments that you can begin working on immediately after that session to drive growth and revenue within your business. I mentioned that this is the same method that we've used with so many big brands. We're so excited about bringing this methodology to companies of all sizes because we've seen the incredible results that companies can get when they focus on this end-to-end methodology using customer profiles as the foundation of all of this work. Now, I want you to think about it. What if you had the foundation to allow you to be more intentional and more intelligent about your product pipeline, your marketing messages, your customer experience design, acquisition efforts, sales scripts, loyalty strategy, all of those pieces? How much faster could your business grow? And how much better would it feel to know that you're proactively working on the right things because you've vetted them through a proven framework? And think about what your business could look like next year at this time. So if any of that sounds good to you, we would love to see you at our upcoming workshop. And because you joined the webinar, we always like to cut a deal. So we have cut the coupon code SPARKVIP to get $100 off your registration for that live workshop. But because this event is live, we only have limited seating. So if you want to be there, sign up quickly and make sure you can secure your spot. We would absolutely love to see you there. And I mentioned that I had 3 promises today, and there's one promise left that is on this slide, and that is I promised I would get you some tools. So Justin already gave you the link to our customer profile canvas, and that is sprocketcx.com/profile. But we'll also give you access to our experiment and learn tool. This is the tool that helps you define minimum viable experiments in order to take your customer profiles and insight that you uncover and actually put them into action in your business, as well as our 5 principles for using data science and customer experience in your business. We want to say thank you so much for joining us today. We would love to see you at our upcoming workshop to help your business grow, and we really appreciate you being here. For those of you who caught the replay, we absolutely appreciate